Hello and hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing? So one of the most interesting topics to me when comparing America to Germany is always the parenting. How you guys raise your kids. I take a lot of inspiration from it. I think it's really cool how much more freedom you give your children over there in Germany. It's something that I always kind of felt would be my parenting style, and reading about how you guys do it over there in Germany honestly makes me a little bit more confident in my parenting decisions, stuff like that. So when I saw this thread pop up, are children freer in Germany? I just really wanted to react to it, specifically the comments. So let's do it. Of course, I already know the answer to the question is, yeah, yep, they're freer. Hey, Reddit, so I'm considering moving to Germany in the future. Raising children in the US is way more difficult than it has to be. That's for sure. Americans are paranoid about the dangers their children are unlikely to face. That's also true. Growing up here felt more like moving from one regulated box to another with little unstructured time to explore or talk to new people. Even letting your kids walk to school is frowned upon if your child is younger. That's interesting. Yes, in fact, I've never even heard of a kid walking to school. What's kind of funny is you'll hear the older generations talk about how they used to walk to school. And it's like, okay, but you're the parents and you were the ones that stopped your kids from walking to school when you became parents. So why are you saying it like that? Many parts of the US have poor urban planning too. No kidding. So he's curious what the experience is like over there in Germany. Are they more free? Do neighbors trust each other more? That's an interesting thing. You know, it really improves your quality of life when you know your neighbors and you have a good relationship with them. So that's an interesting question. Let's just say when I read about, quote, free range parenting in the US, that sounded like parenting. Free range parenting. I'm not sure I've ever heard that term. That's kind of a funny term. It's like, what are they, cattle? Yeah, that's how I feel. But I do feel like that about sums it up, huh? The fact that we have a term for when you just let your kids be kids and play without hovering over them. Actually, the biggest parenting style, I don't know when this became a thing over here in America, but now we have parenting styles. And the biggest one right now is gentle parenting, which, I don't know, I guess that means a different thing to everybody, but from what I understand, it basically just means you let your kids walk all over you and you can't say no to them. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's just what it sounds like. Generally speaking, yes, our cities are walkable and our kids normally go to the school on their own at a certain age. Crime happens, but it's not comparable to the US, and we don't have regular. Yeah. I don't think. That's actually interesting. He said regular. Like, when's the last time you guys had one of those? Well, based off this list, this was the most recent one, which it actually was. It was in 2022. But only one person died. I mean, two if you include the guy, which I don't. I never understood, why would you include the perpetrator? But one person, I mean, to be honest, sadly, that would be like a blip on the radar over here in America. That might make the local news. It would make the local news. And it would be like it would be a headline that was there and gone on the national news. Gone within like an hour. Now, I will say this is kind of an interesting thing to say. Crime happens, but it's not comparable to the US. Obviously, as far as this, that's not comparable to the US, but crime in general is not comparable to the US. I want to look up some stats on that. Holy crap. I might have to do a whole video on just this stuff, guys. My God. Murder, 19 times. Okay, no, we need to do it per million people. 5 times more than Germany? Jesus. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to say this word out loud, but 3 times more than Germany? Well, I mean, it's comparable, but it's not favorable. When you, I mean, from the U.S.'s side, I mean. You can compare it, just Americans don't want you to. Although I will say the only caveat to that, like those stats, is that America's so, it's so crazy because America's so big. Just certain parts of it are way, way, way more dangerous than other parts, which are quite safe. I lived in the U.S. for a while as a teenager. The amount of control parents had over their kids' lives always seemed absolutely over the top to me. I have to say, as an aside, I think this is a phenomenon of just the last 30 years. I think that really my generation was the last that like had a reasonable amount of freedom. But even still, my generation, like I'd say my generation's parents were more strict. Like they keep getting more strict over here in America. Anyway, my parents caught a lot of flack for just letting me go places on my own. Totally depends on the age. Like I understand what he's saying, and I'm sure it's true, but I would like to know what age he's talking about. A thing even you might have an issue with is that German parents will let steady girlfriends, boyfriends of their kids stay the night in their house. Yes, this may lead to, but that's a much more secure and safe location. That is such an interesting way to think about it. Oh my god. We already know you're going to do it. Might as well be in your house where I know it's safe. Okay. Wow, that is very progressive. Wow. I don't even know what to say. That's pretty wild. I mean, kids do. This is like, I don't know. As far as girlfriends, boyfriends staying the night at their parents' house, it's like, sometimes they'll stay in different rooms often, or not at all. It's pretty rare that you would stay in the same room unless you're like over the age of, I don't know, 18. And then, I don't know. I mean, if I had kids this age, I think I'd rather them do it in the back seat of a car. I'm not even gonna lie. Do it where I don't freaking know where you're at, and like, yeah, as far as I know, it didn't happen. I guess I'm American for that. Americans don't seem to mind because at least it's not in my house. Yeah, pretty much. I think I would shrivel up and die if I ever heard that happening. So, I mean, is it unsafe to do it in a car? This is a weird subject, but I don't think that's unsafe. Whatever. There are no absolute answers to this, of course, and many things depend on where you live. Yes. You always gotta add a disclosure, you know. Your results may vary, can't generalize, but if you do generalize, then there are certainly differences. For example, less free running your kids in the middle of a big city, but when they are older, they get around easier on their own because everything is near and there's public transport. Okay, yeah, that's true. Absolutely. I mean, I live in Indiana. Kids do run around still, you know, and I like that. It's something I like about Indiana is that kids, I mean, they do. They go out on their four-wheelers, their bikes and stuff in the small towns, and I'm talking about 10-year-olds. We were in the U.S. last time in 2015 with my then almost 12-year-old son, and I can tell you it was exhausting. I was not allowed to leave him anywhere alone, even the playground, for even a second. Always there would be somebody asking, "Where's your mother?" God, I hate nosy people. I don't like that. Where's your mother? I don't know. You're not her. Don't talk to me. Creep. Stranger danger. Go away. What do Germans think about, like, as far as stranger danger, talking to strangers, you know? That's an interesting thing. We were at a tiny public pool, and they wouldn't let him in the deep end. He learned to swim at age 5 and was a very good swimmer. Although there were 4 lifeguards, 1 for each side of the pool. We have, like, 4 lifeguards. We're talking about the 11-year-old? They wouldn't let an 11-year-old in the deep end? Man, I think, see, this is what I'm saying. I think stuff has gotten worse since I was a kid. That doesn't even make sense. 11 years old, dude. He's 11 years old. At what age are you allowed to swim in the deep end? What, you gotta be 18? You gotta be able to go to war before you can swim in the deep end of a pool? That is outrageous, even to me as an American. That's just kind of blowing my mind. I mean, I could see if it's like, maybe like 7 years old. If you're under 7, no swimming in the deep end. Okay, sure, that's reasonable. But 12? I see kids walking around all the time and taking public transport alone. That is unfreaking real. That is so cool, in my opinion. That is something, oh my God, you could not do that. You could not send your kid on a public bus here in America. A lot of that type of stuff, like public transport, is so like crappy here in America that it's kind of like shady. Like it's kind of, it can be like dangerous, the public transport. So that's one reason why you can't. But the second reason is just that parents are paranoid, and yeah, you'd for sure be getting, or your kid would be getting, where are your parents? Are you okay? Do we need to call the cops? Keep in mind, kids have the ability to be more independent since they don't need to rely on their parents driving them places to get anywhere. Yeah, that must be nice. They can just grab their bike or a bus. I could imagine that's nice for when you're like dating at 14 years old. You don't need your mommy to drive you. That's really cool. Man, that sounds really awesome. I mean, like I said, luckily, I do live in a pretty small area where some of these values still do exist in America. For now. But man, it is changing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.